So Elliott, this is great. So how did you get into this space? Like where does your story start? I mean, maybe
Sure.
we'll start when you were getting a mechanical engineering degree, or how did this all sort of, what's the genesis story of how you found yourself going down this path?
Sure. So, grew up in Michigan. So, automotive industry. Both my parents were financial consultants. In fact, my dad did similar work to what I do, which helps me oftentimes understand family businesses because my dad had a family business. I did engineering because they paid for me to go to school. Ford, GM, and Chrysler all had scholarship money in my on my balance sheet. I didn't know it was a balance sheet then. So, I went to school, did mechanical engineering, but sort of recognized pretty quickly that I was better at the intersection of sort of human interaction and quantitative analysis. So did strategy consulting for a couple of years, was fortunate enough to get into Harvard Business School and got into the private equity industry, worked for a family office that functions as a private equity firm called the Watermill Group in Boston. Um, had kind of centered my life here in Atlanta, came back to Atlanta, started two different independent sponsor outfits or self-funded search groups. The first one, Ellsworth Partners. I started with a mentor of mine. The second one, Spartan Capital Partners, which was just me. And through that period, I just found that it was so incredibly difficult to find resources to help get deals done, call it $1 million to $5 million in EBITDA. No shortage of $500 an hour lawyers that you were the smallest customer they had that took 3 months to get back to you when you needed a document turned in 3 days. And no shortage of very attractive accounting reports that weren't going to look anything like yours. And accountants that were very reluctant to get in the weeds on some of the messiness of the deals that we deal with when you're looking at things that are $1 million to $5 million in EBITDA. So through that experience, I was a private equity guy and then an independent sponsor for about 6 years. So I've been in sort of $1 to $5 million EBITDA deals for a decade now. And about 4 years ago, I just realized that it was so tough to find resources that people were getting what I felt was bamboozled, either overpaying, right, for good quality or paying regularly and getting below average quality, and it was a bit sporadic. And also a lot of investors were looking to go direct as opposed to investing in private equity funds. And I actually enjoyed the process of doing diligence. It's not something you say at the barbecue, but I actually enjoy the numbers and the legal stuff and all the rest. And so I enjoyed this line of business arguably more than the investor side to an extent. And so the genesis of Guardian was just realizing that there was a market need for deal-specific resources that could do a deal $1 to $5 million in EBITDA in a cost-effective way, given the customers that are also the investors in this space are from someone who went through an entrepreneur through acquisition class, right? And that might have been their first foray into this, to people who have been working for 20 years in the industry and want to go buy a company, and everything in between. We're not talking about people who are dealing with accountants and lawyers every day, and they need someone who's going to be able to speak to them in their language, focus them on the right things, not be condescending, care. This is people's personal money and time that we're talking about investing, and doing that specifically. Like, I don't do anything else. I don't do sell side mandates. I don't raise capital for people. I'm not in the circus. So it's just buy side M&A, due diligence. So that's sort of how I got here.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like you and I are a bit aligned in trying to tackle that, like black hole of a problem right there in the private capital markets. Admittedly, I thought you were operating slightly larger than that, and like I'm surprised to learn that you're hanging out in the area that you are. Because
Oh, no, I don't see. It's funny. I was just talking to a bunch of my guys from Harvard Saturday, and I said, you guys like those big, big, big
yeah,
deals, right?
yeah,
And
right.
I like these deals, but these are deals that, Walker and I can toss some cash onto the table and go get done, right?
That's right.
I like the context of being able to get deals done with other people who I know of integrity, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't necessarily like having to need a bunch of rich uncles to be able to consummate deals. And I think a lot of the people that I find the most interesting in this space are that way as well. The idea and sort of the passion to go get a deal done are high, but we're not talking about people who are thinking of private equity as an asset class, top quartile, bottom quartile, alpha, beta. We're talking about people who are trying to buy, I would call like a Main Street Plus operating business, 2 hours from an airport.
Yeah. I was kind of being heavily recruited to do M&A work and the sort of like $50 to $100 million transaction value.
Mm-hmm.
I just kept turning it down because it just felt so corporate. And it's like, no, I'm much more entrepreneurial, right? Like to your point. And
I think there's more value here. I mean, even my Wall Street friends will say that if you look at the returns of deals done per size, right? You're going to get higher returns in smaller deals because there's more challenges to get through and to work through as an entrepreneur, and you get paid for solving problems. And so it's not just where I like it the best for like Elliott's purposes, but if you look at the data, the search fund data out of Stanford, for instance, if you look at that data set, it's been consistently over 30% IRR since the inception. You can't find a private equity asset class data set that's been that strong. And so it's also favorable from a return perspective. And so, I don't know why more people aren't here doing this kind of work, but that's okay by me. I'm doing great stuff here in this market, and I love it.